It's a Get Foxy show. Today's guest, Miss Katie Hess. Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh my God, such a pleasure. So happy to be here, Terry.
Flower essences, flower elixirs. These are things that you are a complete expert on, and yet this is something that so many of us here in the United States, we don't have a clue about. So, what exactly are flower elixirs, and how did you become acquainted with them?
hmm Flower elixirs are like the coolest thing coming down the pike. I think we're at about, I would say, where we were in the 1980s with essential oils. That's about where we're at with flower essences. 1980s, maybe the hippie moms were using lavender oil, right? But now, like, everybody uses essential oils. So flower essences and elixirs, there's a lot of different words for them. Remedies. They're very different from aromatherapy in that they don't have a scent. They are traditionally taken internally, and they've been around for thousands of years all over the world, even though we're not necessarily so familiar with them in the US. There is a multiple thousand-year practice of medicine men and women, doctors, alchemists in all different parts of the world, recommending to their patients to go out into the wild, find the specific flowers that they need, and drink the dewdrops from the tops of the flowers. And I'm sure even in, the acupuncture circles and the old Taoist masters were doing similar practices. So this is, the art and the beauty and science of, in a sense, sort of downloading information from the floral and botanical world that we need for balance. So just like you tweak the ley lines of human body with acupuncture, flower essences do something similar without the needles, where they travel through your meridians and are able to bring you back into your natural balance. What it actually is just alcohol. We use a little honey to make it yummy, and then the chi, or the life force of flowers stored in water. And then you can bring nature into your daily life. You just put it in your coffee, water, tea, in your mouth, and within anywhere from a few minutes to hours to days, you feel different.
And how did you kind of fall into this knowledge?
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I was like, okay, now what am I really here to do? I had lived outside of the country for several years in Europe, in Mexico. I traveled throughout Asia, and I was like, watching all my friends get, car bills and cell phone bills and mortgage bills, and I was like, what am I actually really here to do, and how can I help people reach their full potential? Because I could see blocks in myself, I could see them in other people. And even to this day, I ask people, okay, I'll be in a class and I'll say, raise your hand if you have totally reached your full potential. You've maxed out. Like, you are as loving, kind, generous, patient, courageous, fearless, bold, confident, successful that you'll ever be. And somehow, as human beings, innately, we know that there's more. Like, we know that this isn't it. We can evolve into more. So then the question is, how? Like, what's the actual method? How do we evolve? I had a Tibetan teacher tell me once, much to my severe disappointment, he was like, life is like a snake in a bamboo pole. You're either going up or you're going down. And there is no like neutral. There's no like, I'm going to hang out here and do a sabbatical, or like, I'm just going to kind of be the same. And he explained that because of, causes and conditions and habitual patterning, that if we're not making an active effort every day, the snake's going down. And we see that in elderly people, right? Like, if people haven't had a significant personal growth practice, self-inquiry, curiosity, spiritual practice, something that evolves them or has them like has us looking at ourselves and asking questions like, why am I the way I am? And how can I improve every day as a person? If we don't have those practices, we see elderly folks getting tighter and crunchier and grumpier and meaner, right? Like, more entrenched in their patterning. And then we also see elderly folks who are like softer and wilder and more passionate and more interesting and more talkative and more generous and more patient. So we can see evidence of, these types of practices over time. So I basically got interested because I thought this is a method that I could use to help people accelerate their personal growth. And my flower essence teacher even said, if we could get 3% of the world's population working with these flower remedies, it'll change the outcome of the future of this planet. And so I was pretty inspired. I said, okay, I can work my whole life to try to get 3%. It's when you think the whole world, it's like, oh my God, I'm doomed. But 3%, maybe we could do 3%. So yeah, I came back to the United States and I started a practice. For 10 years, I saw people one-on-one. I saw incredible transformations in people, like mind-blowing. I would take photos, videos, before and afters. I would see such a tremendous difference in people in 3 weeks. I was like, Terry, what am I doing here? This is confidential. No one can see me. Like, I got to reach more people. So after 10 years of that, I started a product company so that I could try to duplicate myself in these bottles and just reach people all over the world as much as possible, because everyone should experience that. I mean, doesn't require a gym membership. As much as I absolutely love and practice meditation daily, it doesn't require you to put your butt on the cushion for 2 hours a day. You literally just put these drops in your beverages and it helps you be more aware of how you are and why you are and how you can make changes to be happier.
This is fascinating stuff. It, it sounds very similar to me to homeopathy, or in some cases, I've been studying Taoist stone medicine and creating stone elixirs, and this also sounds very, very similar in that regard. In that, it sounds like we're using the energetics of the plants
Mhm.
to program information into the water that we then ingest. Is that right?
100%.
Okay.
There is an interesting study by Rustin Roy where he looks at water. I just find this fascinating. And he found that there are 440 panels of information in one cluster of water. So water is basically a recording device. It's like the rainbow on the back of a DVD or CD, or like the magnetic tape on a cassette, if you're as old as I am. And you remember cassette tapes. It's the same thing. It's, this magnificent quality of water to store information. And like you said, we can store downloads from gemstones, minerals, flowers, trees into water, and then use that as a medium to introduce it into the waters of our body.
There are so many flowers out there. How in the world do you figure out what flower would be good for what condition?
Yeah, there are over 40,000 flowering species on the planet, and we've only collected about 250. So there's so much room for expansion and learning, right? uh, how do I choose? I mean, the very first collection trip that I did was in British Columbia. I collected 15, it's like marathon. I don't know how I did that. I collected 15 flowers in one day. And I guess I would tell you that every time it's different. That first collection trip, I was in a place that I didn't, I had no familiarity with, was out in the middle of nowhere, north of Whistler, Arctic forests. And I basically just sat down and I meditated. I did a little Tai Chi, and then I, connected with the earth and said, please help me find what people need, or the people that I can reach in my life. Help me find what they need that will be the most impactful for them. And then I remember standing at this crossroads deciding which way to go, and this giant black bear came out of the woods and crawled up onto one of the pathways, stopped, turned, looked at me in the eyes, and then lumbered back off into the forest. And I was like, okay, I will take that as a sign. I'll go down that path that he just crossed slowly, giving him some space. And that just started this like epic collection tour where, butterflies were circling my head and landing on flowers. So then I would collect that flower. A beautiful shiny snake came right in front of my toes, went off into this patch of white flowers that I wasn't familiar with. And I was like, okay, I'll collect this flower. And the whole trip was like that. It was like the whole environment just like conspired to help me find things that were good for humanity. And then in retrospect, I mean, it sounds crazy. In the moment, I thought I was crazy. I was like, I'm just going to roll with it. But this is really weird. Looking back now, though, those were the most needed flowers and still continue to be. Like yarrow, help the body revitalize after computer, cell phone, and electronics and all forms of radiation. Fireweed, helping us dissolve old bad memories from our cells, so we can experience more love. Dandelion, relaxing neck and shoulder and bodily tension. It's like a massage therapist's best friend. I mean, just, things that we all need. I would say nowadays it's changed a little bit. I have never since had an experience like that where the animals all come out to help out. That was phenomenal. Now it's been more like I'll choose a place where I feel like the place embodies something that we're needing, whether it's Iceland and it's like everything has kind of a flavor of childlike curiosity and wonder, or whether it's Southeast Asia and it's all about abundance and growth and potential. And then sometimes I'll like get a bug in my butt and say, I really want to find this endangered orchid. I'm going to hunt for it and just challenge myself to see if I can find it. And I guess I would say all of the ways of kind of communing with nature and finding flowers, underlying is the thread of no matter what happens, I want to find what the people that I can touch in my lifetime, it will radically benefit their lives. I don't care how it shows up.
That's cool. I'd be curious to get your take on this. I know some of my herb teachers have said that the environment in which a plant grows has an effect on its properties. And so you can have two of the same sort of species of plant, one growing, say, here in the States, another growing up in Tibet, and they can have completely different properties energetically. Do you find that in your practice?
Agreed. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that whole topic I find fascinating. I can give you two examples. One is the lupin flower, the beautiful blue flower. In British Columbia, the Arctic lupin is more about, I have too much on my plate, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, maybe a new mom, maybe somebody with a business, just too much going on. And also, a lot of men end up feeling this way too, is I just don't have enough support. I just don't get enough support. And it induces this deep sense of peace. Well, we have the lupin flower here in Arizona too, in the Sonoran Desert, where it's just rip roaring, dry and hot and fiery. It blooms every spring. And it's more about like panic attacks, like wild anxiety and just like fierce, like a fiercer version of that form of stress. There's another example. I found a beautiful wild pansy in Iceland near hot springs. Cute little pansy. And what a funny name too. And it's for courage and confidence and feeling comfortable. Well, I also had a wild pansy from Arizona, the desert. And we called it Johnny Jump Up because it's another name. Oh, what a stupid name. I mean, God, it's like the silliest name for a flower, right? It sounds like Johnny Jump Up. Like, what kind of name is that? But I tell you, Terry, this is like one of the fiercest flower elixirs I've taken in the last year. It is so fierce. It's as fierce as some of those, like poisonous flowers. it's so fierce. And you think this tiny little pansy that grew up in the desert, and it just roto-roots everything about you until you are angry enough to be more confident. So totally 100% agree with you. It can be the same species of flower, but they're growing in two different locations and the quality is totally different.
You mentioned poisonous flowers. So I'm guessing this kind of practice isn't something that one necessarily should be doing at home unsupervised.
Well, okay, so like you said earlier, it's very similar to homeopathy. So, like whereas with homeopathy, you can take arsenic, belladonna, all kinds of things that you're allergic to or that are poisonous or fatal. Similarly, with flower essences, it goes through a heavy dilution process. So by the time you're actually taking the remedy, there are no more plant parts or chemical constituents, only the chi or the life force. So that's what makes it possible to work with poisonous flowers. Poisonous flowers have a lot of benefit and beauty. I would say if someone were going to make sort of like a mother essence or first stage essence, like let's say you have a garden in your backyard, you can choose the flowers you're most attracted to today, soak them in water in the sunlight for several hours, and then either dump them over your head or put them in your bathtub. That's like making a mother essence, and you can use that directly and you can do it every day, all day long. Just make sure that those flowers aren't poisonous, because if they haven't gone through that extensive dilution process, then yes, it can be harmful.
How can people find out more about this work and your product?
Our website is LOTUSWEI, lotus like the flower, and then WEI.com. We have an extensive blog with tons of information. There's a quiz on the homepage. So if you want to choose the flowers you're most attracted to and see what it means about you in the moment, we have a card deck, a book that's like choose your own adventure. We're on all the social media channels. And if people are just curious and they want to call, we have our team is so passionate about what we do. So if people want to call or email, like, what do I take? We love connecting people with flowers that can change their lives.
Excellent. I will be including links to your website and your social media feeds and your book. I did see that you had a book on Amazon. Would you care to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's called Flowerevolution, Blooming into Your Full Potential with the Magic of Flowers. And it's a pretty hefty, thick hardcover book. It's beautiful. The photography was by Louis Schwartzberg, who's a Hollywood cinematographer. And the first section of the book really goes into like, what are they and what's the science behind it? And what plants are psychic and how is that possible? And how can I heal myself with the chi? Right. So it's just all about what's the potentiality behind this modality. And then the second part of the book is like a choose your own adventure. So based on 54 some different flowers, whatever you're most drawn to, then you turn to that page. It'll not only tell you fun facts about the flower, but also more importantly about you, what's happening inside your heart, what's happening inside your mind. What are some questions you might want to ask yourself? And how can this flower assist you in like accelerating the wisdom and insights from your life experiences?
I think I'd be a little amiss here on the Get Foxy show. We talk holistic health, natural beauty. I
And
suppose I better ask you about, okay, which flowers do you feel would be very appropriate to help enhance one's personal beauty?
beauty. Hmm. So many. I mean, probably any flower is going to boost your radiance and make you feel more beautiful. But the one that comes to mind is my all-time favorite, and that's the night blooming jasmine flower, because it kind of goes through all of our body and scrubs any information from our cellular memories about things that we don't like about each of ourselves. Like, oh, I have a little cellulite on my butt, or oh, maybe my profile from this side doesn't look as good as this side, or maybe my nose or my, whatever the thing is that we secretly hold back. it's kind of scrubs that information and helps us accept ourselves exactly as we are and feel more beautiful. And when we feel more beautiful and we feel irresistible and we fall in love with ourselves exactly as we are, then we are more beautiful and we are more radiant. So that's a really good one, jasmine. And there are other flowers that are really good for the skin, like hollyhock, like softening the skin and making us more radiant. And pretty much, I would say any flower that gets you more into your strength and your confidence and your ability to feel comfortable with all aspects of yourself. Like, does it get any more sexy than that? You know, like so beautiful when you're comfortable with who you are.
Amen to that.
So, yeah, all flowers. I will say this, right? I will say we do have a new blend coming out called Sacred Body that I think is one of the most important things we've made to date. And it's 9 flowers and botanicals to revitalize the subtle body and the wei qi, so that our immune systems are really firm and strong in their boundaries, and that we can hold vitality, DNA integrity. There's just a lot of things in the environment right now. We can experience toxic overload from a number of different angles and ways that it gets introduced into the body. So it's like chi builder extraordinaire, and the chi, right? And the subtle body is a gateway to the physical body. So whereas most of our formulas are more focused on emotional and mental, this is the one blend that really I feel revitalizes all aspects of the physical body and also helps us recognize how sacred our bodies are and how important it is to take care of ourselves.
That is so cool. I'm excited to check that out. I'm going to switch it up here a little bit. I'm going to ask you the question I ask all my guests.
Yeah.
And that is, what does Foxy, what is the definition of Foxy according to Katie Hess?
Such a cool question. I mean, immediately what comes to mind is like kind of sly and trickster and, the kind of like you hear it in a vernacular like sexy. But when I think of fox, I think of, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And there was one morning I was up really early and I saw this beautiful fox walking down the street in my neighborhood. I was like, what? And very, very rarely, very occasionally, we'll see a coyote come through because we are in the desert. But a fox, I mean, it was like, wow. And to me, it was the sighting was like auspicious and kind of elusive and shy and almost illusory. Like it reminds me of the quality of everything in life is kind of an illusion. And also simultaneously so precious and like an auspicious messenger almost. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Foxy.
And who do you feel is Foxy in your world at the moment?
I would say myself. And I would say this is probably the first year of my entire life that I would admit that, I guess, or like be open to embodying more of those qualities.
I love that answer. I really think that takes a solid amount of self-love and confidence in a way that isn't necessarily vain or narcissistic, but just owning who you are. And so many of us don't do that. And so that being able to verbalize that, that's huge. So rock on with your bad self.
That means a lot. That means a lot. It takes a long time, right? To like own yourself as you are. And I'm still working on it.
And how do you work on that?
Daily practice of like 1,000,000 flower elixirs and meditation every day, and recognizing that whatever challenge life throws at me, rather than fight it, although I do a fair amount of fighting, um, to embrace it as like the key of what's the next step in my awakening, even if it's painful, that I can surrender to whatever really challenging things come my way, knowing or having the conviction that as long as I can kind of observe myself and make it through to the other side, there will be a reward or a treasure or some form of strength that comes with making it through that challenge.
That's beautiful. One more time, how can people find out about your product?
Yeah, come over to our website at lotuswei.com, and the way is spelled WEI. Find us on social media, and we can connect you not only with a whole new world and appreciation of flowers and plants and how the earth is here for you, just waiting to support you, but also kind of reintroducing you to a whole new world inside of yourself of things that may have been hidden, of things that want to come out and be seen more in ways that might even surprise you. So, well, I welcome everyone to come and explore this world.
That's beautiful. Katie, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I so honor you for bringing more life and light and the power of flowers into the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clary. Really appreciate it.